We've got start sit advice. We've got Dave playing the drums with his pen, and we've also got keeper league stashes right now on Fantasy Football Today Express. All right, here we go. Adam and Dave on a Friday afternoon, just kicking it. Dave,
it's Friday morning, you knucklehead. It's 10:27 a.m. Eastern time. At what point do you think that this is afternoon?
No, I was wrong. I was wrong about this one, but on the mailbag, I am going to finally win the argument about 11:30 a.m. being the afternoon. So stay tuned for the mailbag. Dave, who are some players that we should be picking up right now in keeper leagues?
So first of all, afternoon, 2 words, pretty easy to define what each of them means. I think afternoon is pretty self-explanatory, and 11:30 a.m. is not afternoon. Okay, I'm going to go through the top 4 positions in fantasy. I've got players sorted by check for, meaning they're probably already on a roster. You're not going to be able to get them, but double check anyway. And then keeper prospects, some of them deeper than others. This is for people in keeper leagues. Maybe for dynasty leagues. I think a lot of these people are going to be obviously rostered in dynasty leagues, but it's just to help people out to put players on their roster now so that you have the option to keep them next fall. So that's kind of what we're doing here. You're going to take players that you know you're not going to even think about keeping. You're going to cut them from your roster, and you're going to pick up these guys. Here we go. So a quarterback, you'll check to see and just make sure that Trevor Lawrence and Dak Prescott are on somebody's team. If they're not, put them on your team. And then check with J.J. McCarthy, see if he's out there. Obviously, he's got a chance to be the starting quarterback for the Minnesota Vikings. That was a pretty good spot for Sam Darnold this year. Running back, double check, obviously, for J.K. Dobbins, but Jordan Mason, too. We don't know what's going to happen with Christian McCaffrey. So Jordan Mason's somebody that I wouldn't mind stashing as a possible keeper for next year. The best keeper prospects at running back, Jalen Wright with the Dolphins, Marshawn Lloyd with the Packers. Wright especially could be the 1B running back with Devon Achane. And I love what I saw from Jalen Wright this year. I even got to see him practice. The dude looks the part of being a big-time running back in the NFL. Deeper keeper prospects, A.J. Dillon might resurface. That's not a great one, but Izzy Abanikanda, Tyler Bidet, those would be 3 guys. Desperation Hail Mary type keepers. Maybe those are the types of players that are out there in dynasty leagues. The worst thing you can do, stash them and see what happens. At wide receiver, check for Chris Godwin, check for Brandon Ayuk, check for Chris Olave. Just make sure that if they're free agents, put them on your bench. If they're not, there's nothing you can do about that. Keeper prospects at wide receiver, Jalen McMillan, obviously. I think there's a path for Jermaine Burton to be the number 2 wide receiver for the Cincinnati Bengals next year. That would be a pretty dope spot. Jermaine Burton's out there in a ton of leagues. Would love to have him, and wouldn't mind sitting on Ricky Pearsall, not literally, of course, but figuratively for the purposes of fantasy. He's somebody who I think could go and be decent. Deeper keeper league prospects. Jordan Whittington with the Rams is probably going to be my favorite. He's up there with Adonai Mitchell and Devon Vele. At tight end, Eric All Jr. He's the tight end in Cincinnati towards ACL. We'll see if he can come back. This is to say that there aren't a lot of good tight ends that you could stash away as keeper prospects, but he's the headliner along with Luke Schoonmaker, Ben Sinnott, and Jatavion Sanders, some deeper tight ends, Theo Johnson, Jeremy Ruckert, and Jaheim Bell in New England. I wonder if he makes a second-year jump in that Patriots passing game, which is so void of long-term talent. Maybe he gets an opportunity there. That's it. That's the keeper list.
Yeah. Did you mention the Texans receivers? Because Diggs and Dell, obviously Diggs being a free agent, Dell with the surgery, something.
Sure.
There.
So the only one that would make sense is Deontay Johnson, but he's already rostered in a bunch of leagues, and you can't pick up Texans players now because they've already played. So you would have need to have already picked up Deontay Johnson, but I don't see John Mechie or Hutchinson evolving into big time pass catchers. Cade Stover is kind of interesting at tight end. I don't know if you can pick up players before week 18 for that purpose, but those would be guys to look at.
Okay. We're going to take a break and come back and answer your start or sit questions on Fantasy Football Today Express. Here we go. Start sit for week 17. It begins. Debo, McMillan, and start one of them.
It's McMillan.
And Abdullah or Spears at flex.
It would easily be Spears if Tony Pollard didn't play. We just don't know if that's going to be the case. If Pollard plays, I'd go Abdullah.
Aaron Rodgers, Justin Herbert, or Bryce Young in 4-point per passing touchdown leagues.
It's gross, but Rodgers is probably going to be the pick. If the weather forecast is really, really terrible for Buffalo, then maybe you pivot to Justin Herbert, but I don't really love any of those 3 quarterbacks.
Herbert's playing on Saturday, though. So
Right. That's why you would pivot if the forecast is really, really bad. But it's got to be, I'll say it again, really, really bad.
Bucky Irving or A.J. Brown in PPR?
Bucky.
How about Bucky Irving, Chase Brown, or A.J. Brown? Sorry, so it's an updated question. Pick two. Bucky Irving, Chase Brown, A.J. Brown, PPR.
I'm gonna lean away from A.J. Brown just because Kenny Pickett's the quarterback. And the matchup is fine. Like, I'm not scared of the matchup in this case, but this could be a game where Saquon Barkley really handles the bulk of the workload.
Half PPR, Drake London or Jamison Williams?
I've got London over Jamison Williams, but I think it's close.
We got London, Juwan Jennings, Devontae Adams, and Brian Thomas Jr. We need two of them.
It's going to be the last two. London would be the emergency backup if Devontae Adams doesn't play. Remember, we're recording this early Friday. We don't know if Devontae Adams is going to practice on Friday. He did not practice on Wednesday or Thursday.
Question. Oh, I read that one. Sorry. How about this one? Start three. Neighbors. Bucky Irving. Brian Robinson. Jalen McMillan. Rashad White.
If Neighbors does not play, and he's another receiver that didn't practice on Wednesday or Thursday, we'll see about Friday, and he's already called himself a game-time decision. I think I like the middle three names that you gave. Stay away from Rashad White. Stay away from Neighbors if he doesn't play. Give me the names one more time.
Yeah. Neighbors, Bucky, Brian Robinson Jr., McMillan, Rashad White.
Okay, so I would go with McMillan, Neighbors, and Bucky if Neighbors is active. So Brian Robinson would sit.
Sorry, Dave. Abdullah or Hall?
Brees Hall.
Downs, Adam Thielen, Jalen McMillan, Marvin Harrison Jr., Amir Abdullah, and Tyjae Spears. Pick a wide receiver and a flex. Downs, Thielen, McMillan, Marvin, Abdullah, Spears.
So there's going to be a lot of moving parts here. Thielen and McMillan, if everybody's healthy on this list, that would change if Tony Pollard isn't healthy. In which case I would go with Spears and Thielen. But you're probably starting some combination of Spears, Thielen, McMillan, and then let's just say Pollard's in, Thielen's out. Who would I start from? Downs, Marvin, and Abdullah? Wow, that's gross. I probably would just go with Abdullah, to be honest with you.
There's one more moving part that you didn't mention, and that's what if Joe Flacco is the quarterback? Would that put...
Yeah, sure. Then I'd pivot to Downs over Abdullah. Hey, why don't we do just a real quick rundown of the weather situation? I have it open. There's rain likely. It's potential to be heavy rain in Buffalo, so that's Jets, Bills. In Cleveland, that's Dolphins, Browns. And in Washington, that's Falcons, Commanders. If you've got a kicker in those games, if you've got a boom-bust receiver in those games, if you've got a sus quarterback in those games, I would stay away from those players, provided that the forecasts stay as ugly as they look.
All right. Burrow or Daniels?
Daniels, assuming the weather is fine. And the weather forecast is fine in Washington. I know that Burrow plays on Saturday. Yeah. Burrow's weather might be rainy too.
Right, exactly.
A lot of rain this week. Remember, rain on its own is not necessarily a bad thing. It's heavy rain that could impact visibility or just wet footballs, and wind is usually the thing that really scares me the most.
And Spears or Garendo?
Spears if Pollard is out, Garendo otherwise.
Last one, Njoku, Ertz, or Okonkwo?
Njoku if he plays, Okonkwo otherwise.
All right, folks, you heard it from Dave on Express. We'll talk to you next time. Enjoy your weekend and win your leagues. And let's celebrate Sunday night, Monday night, and Tuesday morning, and all throughout the offseason. See you later.